I've been driving trucks for almost a decade now, and let me tell you, I've seen my fair share of weird shit on the road. Long-haul routes take you through places no one would willingly stop, and sometimes, those places have a feeling about them, the kind that makes your skin crawl before you even put the truck in park. This happened a few years ago when I was driving through the Midwest, somewhere between Nebraska and Wyoming. I had been on the road for nearly 10 hours straight, my eyes dry from staring at the endless stretch of highway, my body aching from sitting so long. My rig was running low on fuel, and I was running low on patience. So when I saw a gas station sign flickering in the distance, I didn't hesitate. The place was exactly what you'd picture when you think of a forgotten roadside stop. A single-story building with a rusted-out awning, the gas pump standing like relics from the 80s. The neon "Open" sign in the window was barely holding on, buzzing faintly like it was struggling to stay alive. The whole station was surrounded by nothing but miles of empty road and patches of dead grass. No cars. No houses. No signs of life. I pulled up to the pump, turned off the engine, and just sat there for a second, stretching my arms and cracking my neck. The air outside was thick with humidity despite it being late evening. It smelled like rain, like a storm was brewing somewhere beyond the horizon. I grabbed my wallet and reached for the door handle, but before I could open it, tap, tap. A light knock on my window. I turned my head so fast I nearly gave myself whiplash. Standing just outside my truck, barely illuminated by the flickering station lights, was a kid. Maybe 10, maybe 12, it was hard to tell. He had shaggy blonde hair, dirty jeans, and a plain white t-shirt that looked 2 sizes too big for him. His face was smudged with dirt, his lips slightly parted like he had just been running. But the thing that struck me the most? His eyes. Wide. Unblinking. He leaned in just a little closer, his small hand pressed against the glass. "Don't go inside," he whispered. My brain struggled to process it for a second. The hell was a kid doing out here? I glanced around, expecting to see parents or a car somewhere nearby, but there was nothing. Just him. Before I could react, the gas station lights flickered again, this time longer, enough to plunge the whole area into darkness for half a second. And in that moment, I swear I saw something move inside the station. A shadow, shifting behind the counter. The lights came back, and the store looked normal again, empty, still, just a gas station in the middle of nowhere. But my stomach was twisting into knots. I turned back to the kid, but he was already backing away, his bare feet soundless on the cracked pavement. "Go," he said. "Now." Then, just like that, he turned and ran into the darkness behind the station. I sat there, my hand frozen on the door handle, my breath stuck in my throat. My first instinct was to call out to him, maybe even follow to see where he was going, but another part of me, the part that had learned to trust my gut, was screaming at me to do exactly what he said. Get the hell out of there. But my truck needed gas. And I needed answers. I took a deep breath, grabbed my phone, and opened the door. I was going inside, the air felt different the second I stepped out of the truck. Thicker. Like the moment before a thunderstorm when the world goes silent, waiting for the first crack of lightning. The gas station lights flickered again, but this time, I noticed something. It wasn't random. It was almost rhythmic. A pattern. Like someone was messing with the wiring, flipping the switch just enough to screw with my head. I glanced toward the side of the building where the kid had disappeared. Nothing. Just darkness stretching out into a field of overgrown grass. No houses, no cars, no reason a kid should be out here alone. My gut twisted, but I forced myself forward. The glass door creaked as I pushed it open, and the second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The place was too quiet. Not just regular empty store quiet, unnatural quiet. The kind where your ears strain for sound, but all you get is a void. No buzzing from the coolers, no hum from the lights, no music from an old radio behind the counter. Just nothing. The air was stale, carrying a faint, sickly sweet smell that I couldn't place. Like something was rotting, but not enough to be obvious. The layout was standard for a place like this. A couple of dusty aisles stocked with stale chips and canned food, a counter near the back with an old register, and a doorway behind it that probably led to a storage room or an office. There was a coffee station to my left, the pots long empty, a single fly buzzing around the rim. But there was no one inside. Hello? My voice sounded too loud, like the building swallowed the sound before it could reach the walls. No answer. I took a step forward, my boots scuffing against the dirty tile floor. The motion sensor lights in the drink cooler should have turned on, but they didn't. The glass was fogged up, smeared with something dark near the edges. My fingers twitched at my side. Every nerve in my body was telling me to turn around and leave, but I was already in too deep. The kid had warned me for a reason. I had to know why. Then I noticed it. Behind the counter, near the register, something was off. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it, but as I stepped closer, the details started to form. The register was covered in dust, like it hadn't been used in months. The coffee cups stacked beside it were faded, the plastic lids turning yellow. But it wasn't just neglect, this place hadn't been open for a long time. So why was the "open" sign still on? And then, the smell hit me. Stronger now, rancid and warm. It was coming from behind the counter. I swallowed hard and leaned forward slightly, peering over the edge. There was a shoe. A black work boot, scuffed and old, sticking out from behind the counter like someone was lying down back there. My stomach clenched. "Hey," I called out, my voice shaky. "You all right?" "Nothing." I hesitated, then slowly moved around the counter. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs as I braced myself for whatever I was about to see. But when I stepped forward, the lights cut out. The whole store plunged into darkness. And in that split second, as my eyes adjusted to the pitch black, I saw it. Something moved. Not a person. Not the kid. Something big. Hunched. Crawling. It was in the back of the store, near the storage room door. And it was watching me. A breath shuddered out of my lungs, too shaky to be real. I couldn't see its face, I didn't want to. But I felt it. Felt the weight of its gaze, the wrongness of it. The air shifted as it moved closer. Then, just as suddenly, the lights flickered back on. Nothing was there. Just empty aisles. The same stillness. The same awful, heavy silence. But the boot behind the counter. It was gone. I didn't even think. I turned and bolted for the door, shoving it open so hard it nearly came off its hinges. The second I hit the pavement, I sucked in a lungful of fresh air, my heart slamming against my ribs. I ran to my truck, yanked the door open, and jumped inside, locking it in one frantic motion. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely shove the key into the ignition. I looked around, scanning the lot. No kid. No movement. Just my truck and the empty station. For a split second, I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was exhaustion, a hallucination from too many hours on the road. But then I saw it. The kid. He was standing at the edge of the lot, half hidden in the dark. Just watching me. And this time, he didn't look scared. He looked sad. Like he already knew what was coming next. As I sat in my truck, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My breathing was still ragged, my pulse hammering against my skull. I stared at the kid standing at the edge of the lot, his small frame barely visible in the dim light. He wasn't running anymore. He wasn't warning me this time. He just stood there. The way he looked at me, it wasn't fear. It was something worse. Like he pitied me. Like he knew something I didn't. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced my hands to stop shaking. My gut screamed at me to get the hell out of there, but I still needed gas if I wanted to make it to the next town. And I needed answers. I forced myself to look away from the kid and back at the station. From the outside, it looked normal again. The lights inside weren't flickering anymore, and the "open" sign still buzzed faintly in the window. If you drove past at a glance, you'd never know anything was wrong. But I knew. I could still feel whatever had been in there. Watching. Waiting. And worse, I had the awful, gut-twisting feeling that it wasn't gone. It was just hiding. I took a shaky breath and reached for the gas pump. My hands were still unsteady as I slid my card into the reader. It beeped. Approved. The nozzle clicked into place, and gas started flowing into my tank. The station lights flickered again. Once. Twice. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. Just a power issue. Old wiring. That's all. But then, I heard it. A scraping sound. It was faint at first, just a whisper of movement coming from inside the store. Then it got louder. Something was dragging across the floor. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Like it wanted me to hear it. I turned my head, my pulse roaring in my ears. Through the glass window of the station, I saw it. A figure. Crawling. Not walking, crawling. Its limbs bent at the wrong angles, its body low to the ground like a broken animal. Its fingers scraped against the tile, long and too many. It was moving toward the door. Toward me. I yanked the nozzle from my truck, spilling gas onto the pavement in my panic. My hand was already on the door handle when the store lights cut out completely. For a second, everything was black. Then, the sound of the door creaking open. I didn't think. I didn't look. I just threw myself into the truck and locked the doors. I fumbled with the keys, my hands slick with sweat. My breath was coming too fast, too shallow. I had to get out of here. And then. Tap. Tap. A knock on my window. My stomach dropped. I turned my head, expecting to see the kid again. It wasn't him. It was the thing. Its face was inches from mine, separated only by the glass. And its mouth was moving. Not speaking. Not making a sound. Just moving. Like it was mouthing something. I didn't stop to figure out what. I slammed my foot on the gas, tires screeching against the pavement as my truck tore out of the lot. I didn't look back. I couldn't. But as I sped down the dark, empty road, my heart pounding so hard it hurt, a thought burned itself into my brain. That thing wasn't just in the store. It had been waiting for me. I was shaking. My hands clenched the wheel so tight my fingers ached, but I didn't dare loosen my grip. The road stretched ahead, empty and endless, my headlights cutting through the darkness. The gas station was long behind me, swallowed by the night, but I couldn't shake the feeling, I wasn't alone. Something had been inside that store. Something wrong. And now, the thought clawed at the back of my mind, sending cold fingers of dread down my spine. What if it followed me? I slammed my foot on the gas, pushing my truck faster than I should on an empty highway, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away. My breathing was ragged, my pulse hammering in my ears. And then. A shadow moved in my mirrors. I nearly swerved off the road. I snapped my eyes to the rearview mirror, my stomach flipping inside out. The road behind me was empty. Just dark asphalt stretching into nothingness. But for a split second, I had seen something. A shape. Low to the ground. Crawling. I forced myself to breathe. You're panicking. You're seeing things. The logical part of my brain was desperately trying to take control, but my gut knew better. I wasn't imagining it. Something was back there. I checked the mirror again. Still empty. But my chest was tight with that instinctual, primal fear, like something unseen was watching me. I hit the gas harder. The truck roared down the highway, but no matter how fast I went, the feeling didn't leave. Then, a noise. A soft, rhythmic tapping. At first, I thought it was the road, maybe something loose in the cab. But as the noise continued, I felt the blood drain from my face. The sound wasn't coming from inside the truck. It was coming from above me. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know. But some sick part of me had to. Slowly, hands trembling, I tilted my head back, just enough to see the top edge of my windshield. Something was on the roof. A hand, long, bony fingers, gripped the edge of the cab. The skin was wrong, stretched too thin, the nails long and splintered. And then, as I stared, the fingers started moving. Sliding. Crawling. Pulling more of itself into view. My stomach lurched. I didn't wait. I did the only thing I could. I slammed on the brakes. The truck screeched, tires skidding, the whole cab jerking forward violently. My seatbelt dug into my chest as everything inside the truck was thrown forward, papers, my phone, my hat. And then, a thud. Something hit the pavement behind me. I sucked in a shaky breath, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. My entire body felt like it was buzzing, adrenaline coursing through me so hard I thought I'd pass out. I didn't want to look. I didn't. But I had to. Slowly, I turned my head toward the side mirror. At first, all I saw was the empty road behind me. Just darkness and the harsh glare of my brake lights cutting into it. Then, movement. Something rose. Not stood. Rose. Like it had no bones. Like it was being pulled up by invisible strings. My vision tunneled. It was the thing from the gas station. Its body was wrong. Twisted. Bent at angles that didn't make sense. Its arms hung too long, its fingers twitching. But its face. It was looking right at me. And its mouth was still moving. Like it was whispering something. I couldn't hear it. I didn't want to. I slammed my foot on the gas. The truck roared forward, tires screeching as I tore down the highway, faster than I ever had in my life. The road blurred, the lights on my dashboard glowing like ghostly eyes in the darkness. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because deep down, I knew. It was still there. And it wasn't done with me yet that I was flooring it down that empty highway, gripping the wheel so hard my fingers felt numb. The truck's engine roared beneath me, but no matter how fast I went, I couldn't shake the feeling. It was still there. I could feel it. Not like when you think someone's watching you in a dark room, but like something was right behind you. Close enough to touch. Close enough to breathe down your neck. I refused to check my mirrors. I refused to look. Because if I did, if I saw it there, still crawling, still whispering, I don't think I'd survive it. The road was endless, stretching out in front of me like a black ribbon cutting through nothingness. No streetlights. No exits. Just the dark pressing in on both sides, swallowing everything. And then, the headlights flickered. Just for a second. A tiny hiccup in the electrical system, barely noticeable. Then they did it again. And again. My chest seized. No. No, 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 not now. I checked the dash, gauges normal, no warnings. There was no reason for this. The truck was fine when I left the last stop. It was fine. But the lights. They flickered again. Longer this time. A full second of darkness before they flared back to life. And in that second, I saw it. In the beams of my headlights. Ahead of me. It was standing in the middle of the road. Waiting. My stomach dropped out of my body. My foot slammed the brakes on instinct, but I knew, I fucked up. Because the second my truck skidded, the second I let off the gas. The radio turned on. The speakers crackled, static hissing like a nest of angry insects. At first, it was just white noise, but then... a voice. Low. Wet. Whispering. I couldn't understand the words. They were wrong, layered, impossible. Like they were being spoken backward and forward at the same time. My breath hitched. The truck was still rolling forward, skidding slightly from the sudden brake. I had to decide. Either I keep stopping. Let it get closer. Let it in. Or I run it down. I chose the second. I stomped the gas so hard my leg cramped. The truck lurched forward, tires screeching, barreling straight toward the thing standing in the road. But the second my headlights hit it full force, it was gone. Like it had never been there at all. My truck screamed down the road, the engine growling like a wounded animal. And then... something hit the back of the truck. Hard. The whole cab shook, metal groaning. My rear tires lifted slightly like something had yanked the back of the trailer. It was on me. I grabbed the wheel with both hands, white-knuckled, heart hammering. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. The weight of it dragging against the truck, trying to pull me backward. And then... the whispering got louder. It wasn't coming from the radio anymore. It was inside the truck. Right behind me. I didn't think. I didn't pray. I just screamed. And then... I did the only thing I could. I swerved. Hard. The truck fishtailed, tires skidding sideways, nearly flipping the whole rig. I heard metal scrape pavement, the trailer swinging wildly behind me. And then, the weight was gone. The whispering stopped. The truck jerked back into control, wobbling, but still moving forward. I gasped for breath, chest heaving. My arms were trembling as I straightened the wheel, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd puke. I didn't look back. I didn't check the mirrors. I didn't stop. I just drove. And I prayed I could make it to sunrise. I kept driving. I didn't know where I was heading, didn't care, as long as I was moving. The whispering was gone. The weight on the truck was gone. But the feeling, the pressure of something unseen, something wrong, wasn't. It clung to the air like the stink of something dead rotting in a hot room. I wiped a shaking hand across my face. My skin was ice cold despite the sweat dripping down my neck. The road stretched ahead, endless. My headlights were the only thing breaking the suffocating darkness. Still no other cars. No signs of civilization. I tried to focus, tried to keep my breathing steady. Just make it to sunrise. That was the goal now. I didn't care where I ended up, just somewhere with people. Somewhere with lights and noise and normal, human things. But as I gritted my teeth and pressed the gas, a cold thought settled in my brain like a weight on my chest. It's not letting me go. Then. The CB radio crackled to life. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The speakers whined with static, that low, droning hiss. I hadn't touched the CB all night. It wasn't even turned on. My fingers hovered over the dial, but I couldn't bring myself to turn it off. Then, through the static, a voice. Not whispering this time. Low. Drawn out. It spoke one word. My name. I felt my insides twist. It didn't sound right. It was off, drawn out, distorted, like someone had taken my name and stretched it into something unnatural. It knew me. The static grew louder. And then. A thump on the roof. Soft at first. A test. Then another. Louder. My stomach clenched. I didn't want to look. Didn't want to know. But my foot, my idiot foot, eased off the gas, just a little. And the second I did, Bang! The whole truck shuddered, metal groaning like something heavy had just slammed onto the roof. I gritted my teeth, forcing my foot back on the pedal, but the moment had already passed. It knew I hesitated. Something scraped along the top of the cab. Not like an animal. Not like branches. Like fingers. Long, slow. Dragging across the metal. A sound like nails raking across a coffin lid. The CB crackled again. This time, laughter. Not loud. Not a cackle. Just a soft, wet chuckle. And in that moment, I knew. It wasn't just playing with me. It was enjoying this. I slammed the wheel to the right, swerving hard. Wham! Something rolled off the roof, slamming into the pavement behind me. I didn't look back. I just kept driving. But my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel. Because now I knew for certain. This thing doesn't just want to scare me. It wants me to stop. And I think, the next time I do, I won't be believing that I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The road stretched out ahead, endless and empty, the only sound the steady roar of my engine. The CB had gone silent. The scraping on the roof was gone. But the feeling wasn't. That thick, suffocating weight pressed against me, heavy and unmoving, like something was still inside the truck. Like something was still watching. I kept my eyes locked on the road, refusing to check the mirrors. I knew better now. But then, the headlights flickered again. Once. Twice. Then. They went out. Total blackness. My breath caught. My heart slammed against my ribs. I was still moving, still barreling down the highway at over 70 miles an hour, completely blind. The panic was instant, animal, raw. My hand shot to the dashboard, fingers fumbling over the switches, flipping them on and off, on and off. Nothing. Just dark. I sucked in a breath, forcing myself not to slam the brakes. Keep moving. Keep moving. Then. From the passenger seat. A sound. Breathing. Long, shallow. Right next to me. I clenched the wheel so tight my knuckles popped. I didn't turn my head. I wouldn't. The breathing grew louder. And then. A whisper. Pull over. No. I kept my foot on the gas, my pulse hammering. Another whisper. Pull over, James. It knew my name. The headlights flicked back on. And in that split second, I saw it. Reflected in the windshield. It was sitting in the passenger seat. Long limbs, twisted joints, that unnatural grin stretching across its face, those hollow, sunken eyes. And it was leaning toward me. I did the only thing I could. I jerked the wheel hard. The truck lurched, tires screaming, the trailer whipping behind me. The whole cab tilted as I fought to keep control. But when I looked back at the passenger seat, it was gone. The road in front of me was different. No more endless black highway. A gas station. I recognized it. The same one. I was back. The neon sign buzzed weakly in the dark, casting sickly light over the pavement. The station looked empty. The windows were dark. But the doors were open. My stomach dropped. I didn't touch the brakes. I didn't turn. I just kept driving. Faster. And as I passed, I saw something standing in the doorway. Not the thing. Not the creature. A kid. The same one from before. Watching me. His lips barely moved. But I knew what he was saying. I could hear it in my head. You should have listened. And then. The station disappeared behind me. The road stretched forward, endless, swallowing me into the dark. I haven't stopped since. And I don't think I ever will.